Hello, and thank you for logging in to the 2012 Grantseeker Webinar for the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. My name is Tim Rourke, Director of Program with the Foundation, and we're going to spend some time in this webinar providing highlights about our 2012 Community Grants Program, offering you tips and guidance on where to find information about our application process and what factors you need to know when considering whether or not to apply. As folks may know, this has been a busy year for the Foundation. We suspended our competitive grants program for the first part of 2012 to complete strategic planning. We will touch on that process and how it informs our new grant program during this webinar. We'll share basic information about our grant process. Hopefully, you have already reviewed the guidelines that are located on our website, but we will highlight key areas of attention we would like you to consider, and we would encourage folks following this webinar to revisit those criteria on our website again. During our strategic planning process, our foundation staff, board, community stakeholders engaged in multiple conversations that have led us to our new strategic plan. You will find a summary of our strategic plan available on our website. Our new mission you see on the screen. As a community foundation, we seek to strengthen communities and inspire greater giving by investing charitable assets for today and tomorrow, funding effective organizations, ideas, and students, leading and collaborating on important public issues. And we feel, and you will notice this mission statement throughout our grants program and throughout the multiple ways in which we're going to work with the community moving forward. As a part of that strategic planning process, in addition to a revised mission statement, the Foundation has developed our vision for New Hampshire. And these vision areas that we're about to discuss will become a major component of our grants program and a major way in which we look at how we work with our partners throughout the state, beyond our competitive grants program into the many other ways we work in the community. So our vision for New Hampshire, we envision strong, just, and resilient communities where all residents have access to quality health care, food, housing, and other critical needs. Students of all ages improve their lives through appropriate education and job training opportunities. Significant environmental assets are permanently protected and available for long-term public benefit. Arts and culture organizations preserve heritage, celebrate self-expression, and foster appreciation of diversity. Economic opportunity is available to all. And finally, residents give back to their communities and participate meaningfully in civic life. This plan has been based on conversations with hundreds of partners. These vision areas are a result of those. Statewide and advisory board members, community leaders, nonprofit partners, donors, and these reflect our best thinking and new direction. Again, you can find an executive summary of our new strategic plan on our website. These new vision areas will be a theme in our grant-making strategy. And as we begin to discuss eligibility details for our community grants program, we will hearken back to these vision areas and ask you to begin to think about your work in this lens as well. So for viewers who are prior grantees of the Charitable Foundation or have applied to us in advance, we did want to just highlight a few changes to our grants program that have come about as a result of this strategic planning effort. The first is our continued progress towards what we hope is more streamlined access to the Foundation and to grant opportunities. We're going to discuss some of those elements today in terms of the grant process, but I would highlight for you that, as many of you know, the Charitable Foundation has launched this year an online grants application portal that we hope will make it easier for nonprofits to share with us their good work, both through the community grants application and through other tools that the online platform provides, and we'll share just a little of that in this webinar. Our grant making, as I've already noted, is going to become clearly tied to the vision statements we just discussed. We will be looking to tell the story of our work together with you in these vision areas as a way to offer clarity on impact, yours and ours, in the community. Where we have donor interest or foundation priorities, these offer clarity to nonprofit partners about what we fund and why. So we look forward to sharing with you these vision areas and having you think about how they're relative to your work as you consider whether or not to apply to the Community Grants Program. And lastly, we have a continued commitment to best practice grant making through continuing our recent efforts to focus on more opportunities for unrestricted operating support for strong and well-led organizations, continuing to offer in a limited fashion multi-year grant opportunities, to create and continue smaller grant opportunities for smaller dollars, and for project grants to continue to help organizations build their capacity and respond to community need. And while we think about projects, continuing to foster and think about innovation, but thinking about that in new ways, including strategic alignment with our vision areas, timeliness of the Foundation's investment in the work ongoing in the community. Our Community Grants Program historically has had foundation-wide priorities that we've shared with potential applicants, and this year is no different. The primary priority is proposals that can clearly demonstrate an alignment with the vision areas that we've noted in this webinar. If you visit our website and read over the criteria, you will see those vision areas clearly spelled out again so that you can refer back to them and begin to assess the extent to which your work aligns with those vision areas. We also, of course, are interested not just in how an organization and its work may fit into one vision area, but to the extent that organizations feel their work covers multiple vision areas, we look forward to learning that as well. And you will see questions in the application process that ask you to describe how you see your alignment to these vision areas. Within the vision areas, there are 2 areas under which we have special interests in specific work that falls underneath those headings. In the vision area of education, we have a particular interest in seeing proposals related to best practices in early childhood work. During our strategic planning process and in conversations with donors, we have learned about great donor interest in the issue of early childhood, and the Foundation has had several special grant programs focus on this area. We wish to call that out in our Community Grants Program, not to the exclusion of other education-related proposals, but to note that for folks who are working in early childhood, we do invite and welcome proposals from you to learn more about the work and consider them for possible funding. In civic engagement, we have a particular interest in inviting proposals that are from organizations engaging in work to foster civic dialogue at the local, regional, and state level. With both these special interest areas, if you visit our website, when you look at the Foundation vision areas, underneath education and civic engagement both, you will see a hyperlink that will take you to brief documents that give you further context about early childhood and civic dialogue work that would be of interest to the Foundation at this time. As noted earlier, and as we have done in previous years, the Foundation has an interest in proposals that focus on innovation in the nonprofit sector in these changing times. While in previous years, innovation referred to innovative programming and innovative solutions to community need, this year we are defining innovation as innovation related to an organization's business practice, ways in which organizations can streamline to reduce cost and increase their impact in communities, whether that's altering the business model, changing financing strategies, partnering with like organizations in a field in new ways. But innovation in this instance really does focus for us about the organization itself and how it operates. And so we welcome proposals that address ways nonprofits will be innovating in these times. And lastly, as always, the Charitable Foundation invites proposals that are related to advocacy. As a community foundation, we have elected to take the C3H designation ourselves. In addition, as a community foundation, we fund advocacy by all definitions of that word, from the grassroots to direct lobbying. So we wish to call that out and highlight it so that organizations understand that while many funders, for various reasons, do have restrictions on applicants requesting funding or engaging in advocacy with those funds, the Charitable Foundation invites and welcomes advocacy-related proposals. In particular, right now, we have an interest in organizations conducting advocacy work with low-income and vulnerable populations. But again, we welcome proposals for advocacy efforts writ large. For folks, again, who have been a part of our grants program in the past, we do want to highlight a few changes that you may notice. For folks who are brand new, this will just seem like the way we've been doing business. But some of these changes are again reflective of our strategic planning process and our revision efforts to date. The first is that we no longer have two separate community grant programs in our competitive docket. In previous years, we had our Express Grant program, which was small grants, and our Community Impact Grant program, which was large grants, each with different applications and materials for you to review. Our online grant portal that we'll be sharing a little more information about today provides a seamless opportunity for a nonprofit organization to log in and, as they define what they need, have the system tailor specifically a proposal to match your interest and to provide to the foundation exactly the information we need to review your request. So really, there is now only one door for our competitive program, and we call it our Community Grants Program. We have, for grants that are larger than $5,000, instigated an additional two-step process in the application process as a way to both streamline efforts on the nonprofit side and also allow the foundation to review proposals at an early stage and provide feedback and decision-making around whether or not a proposal is likely to be funded before a nonprofit applying for larger funds spends the time on a full application. So we have begun a concept paper process so that, again, when you log in to our online grant portal, for organizations that wish to request more than $5,000, you will be completing a brief concept paper, a limited number of questions that just cover the basics of your proposed initiative, with a few questions that can give foundation staff an understanding of your work and provide us a sense of whether or not, in the landscape of a competitive docket system, your proposal is likely to be funded. And then, after concept papers are reviewed, we will return to organizations whose concept papers show promise and invite you back to complete a fuller application at that time. So we hope the experience provides a more streamlined opportunity for our nonprofits in thinking about applying to us for funding. Thirdly, there are some rules that we have held relatively hard and fast on these last couple of years that we wish to keep as guidelines, but certainly invite a little bit of flexibility and encourage those of you who these apply to consider whether or not now might be a strategic time to apply. Over the last couple of years, we've had a 3-year on, 1-year off rule. What that meant is that we would make grants to an organization through our competitive grant program up to 3 consecutive years in a row, through three separate 1-year grants, or a multi-year grant that may stretch 2 or 3 years. But that after an organization had received 3 consecutive years of funding through our community grants program, they were no longer eligible to apply in the 4th year and were asked to take a year off before applying again. Again, our efforts on this are to retain and continue to work with organizations of strength. The foundation resources are not intended to fund something over the long term, and for that reason, we still ask organizations that are requesting funding multiple years in a row to explain very, very clearly why now would be a time to continue foundation support. But we are not excluding offhand organizations that have received grants from us consecutively over the last 3 years. The second piece is new organizations. Over the last couple of years, we have not invited proposals through our competitive docket for organizations that had less than 2 or 3 years in operations. Again, our interest in fostering innovation, our interest in sharing new ideas and good work ongoing in our communities, both through this program and beyond, call upon us to be more flexible in welcoming proposals from new organizations. But that said, the bar still remains high. We will be focusing our attention on applicants who can demonstrate organizational strength and a track record of results. And the same holds true for organizations that may come to us who are new in their life cycle. Let's talk about deadlines. We have some shifts here as well in how we're going to approach our competitive program. Again, there is a single door for applications through our online grant portal, and depending on what you're asking for will dictate how your concept paper or application is considered when it arrives. For proposals that are $5,000 or less, we are beginning a rolling deadline process as of August 1st. That means that an organization that logs into our system now, or that logs into our system and submits an application on August 1st, will have their applications reviewed anytime after August 1st, and we are committing to a 4-week turnaround time from when an application of under $5,000 is received to when you will be notified of a decision. For proposals that are more than $5,000, we are continuing with a structured deadline. And again noting that these are the proposals where there would be a concept paper prior to being invited to submit a full application. As you can see on the screen, concept papers that are based on proposals more than $5,000 are due by the close of business on Friday, August 31st. The Foundation will take those concept papers and undertake a 2 to 3 week period of review. We will notify concept paper applicants as to whether or not they are invited to submit a full application. It's important to note that if you do submit a concept paper of this scale and you are invited to complete a full application, you will have 3 weeks from that notification until the full application is due through our online grant portal. You see here on the screen somewhat of a timeline. We expect to notify folks as to whether or not they've been invited to submit an application by mid-September, assuming that your applications would be due the first week of October. And then once the full application is received, we would begin our internal process of due diligence among staff, our advisory boards, and our donors, and return to the applicants with decisions on whether or not their application will be awarded in December. It's important to note here as well that the invitation to submit a full application at that stage does not constitute a guarantee of funding. As always, our cycles are incredibly competitive, and the resources we have are not limitless. So we certainly expect that we will be inviting back full applications, more full applications than we will be able to fund at the end of the process. But we do hope that the concept paper process will give us a sense that if an organization's concept paper is strong, their full application is more likely to be funded than not. You see here award limits on your screen. We are a grant maker that works both regionally and statewide. In our foundation regions, the limit that you can request is $20,000. If you are an organization that works multi-regionally across a number of the Foundation's grant-making regions, or you are a statewide organization, the limit you can request is $25,000. We define your presence, be it regional, multi-regional, or statewide, based on the geographical location of where your work takes place, or where your work has impact. So for an organization such as a museum, a movie theater, or another program that is located in one region but may bring in audiences or program participants from other regions, you would still apply based on the geographical location of your program within that region. As always, we certainly take questions and will help guide applicants if they are uncertain how they should be thinking about if they are a regional, multi-regional, or statewide organization. And information on our website can also help guide you by defining our regions and identifying the towns in which our regions are considered. We'd like to talk a little bit about eligibility. And our eligibility criteria largely has not changed. We make grants to public charities that are 501c3s. If an organization does not have their own C3 status, we do accept proposals where an organization has a fiscal sponsor that is a 501c3. There is a fiscal sponsorship agreement form that is required to be submitted into the online portal as evidence of clear communication and a clear relationship between the applicant and their fiscal sponsor, and more details are available about that on our website. We do make grants to public and municipal agencies. This includes units of government, school districts, and things of that nature. It's important to note that we do not provide unrestricted operating support to public and municipal agencies. So while you are eligible to submit an application, your applications would be framed as project grants. And later in this webinar, we'll be discussing the difference there. Of course, we only make grants to organizations that serve within the Foundation's catchment area. As some know, in addition to funding throughout the state of New Hampshire, our Community Grants Program also makes grants in contiguous communities in Maine through our Piscataqua region, and Vermont through our Upper Valley region. Again, I would invite folks who might be listening in from Maine or Vermont to visit our website and review the map and town listings for our Upper Valley and Piscataqua regions to be sure that your work lines up in a town that is within our catchment area. And lastly, all applicants who have been former or current grantees of the Foundation must be up to date in having submitted their final or interim reports on their current or previous grant in order to have their concept paper considered. We are in a transition year relative to our online grant portal. In the future, grantees will be doing their reporting through our online system. However, since folks who are current grantees did not apply through that system, you can access a final and interim report form by visiting our website and under the grant seeker's information, clicking on Reports. The interim and final report is a downloadable Word document that you will complete, and the document itself has instructions on how to submit it via email. We will not be accepting reports through the online grant system at this time. If an organization received a grant in the fall cycle of 2011, of course, you may still be in the middle of operating with that grant, functioning with that project. And we wanted to make sure that you understood that you are indeed eligible to apply in this round, and but you must submit a report that will be considered interim in order to have your concept paper considered. And when you view the form, you will notice there will be a box that you would check off that it constitutes an interim report. If you're uncertain about your reporting history and whether or not we have any reports outstanding, you would be asked to contact the Foundation and speak to a member of our staff, and they would be able to provide you an update on any outstanding reports that may be missing from your profiles. Obviously, there are certain types of organizations or projects that are not eligible and not considered through our Community Grants Program, and you see them here. I won't go through the whole list, but I do want to hover on a couple to make sure that they're clearly understood. We do not make grants to religious programs for religious-based work. However, we do make project grants to religious institutions that engage in non-religious programmatic work to fund those non-religious programs. So, faith-based organizations would just need to justify that the program or project they are requesting support for is non-religious in nature. Of course, with religious programs, while we can make these types of project grants I just explained, we are not able to provide unrestricted operating support to religious institutions. Next, I want to talk about capital campaigns. We do not entertain proposals for capital campaigns through our community grants program. However, we recognize that many donors that we have, in some cases, are interested in supporting capital efforts of good organizations in our state. So for that reason, it is very common for organizations to share with us some of their information about capital campaigns. We would encourage you, if you are engaging in a capital campaign, to certainly consider reaching out to a member of our program staff. But again, I would highlight we do not accept capital proposals through our community grants program. And very often, program officers will simply request a written email, brief write-up of your information to have available to us in the event we connect with a donor that's interested in supporting capital campaign work. And we define capital campaigns as construction, building improvements, etc. The last piece I want to hover on here is replacement of public funding. Obviously, we're living in a time where public funding has become more scarce, more tenuous, and more uncertain. However, it's not the role of the foundation to be in a place to replace public funding because our funding is not designed for the long term. We have, on occasion, made grants to nonprofits who have lost public funding as a bridge towards a new way of doing business and a new financing mechanism that frees the organization from the impact of that public funding loss. In those instances, however, organizations are able to clearly demonstrate to us that it is indeed a bridge, that the goal and the plan to secure a more sustainable financial structure is in place and highly likely, and that the foundation support is a moment in time to be that bridge from that public support to a new way of doing business. But in general, aside from that, we do not fund proposals that are based solely on the loss of public funding. Let's talk about the types of funding that are available through our community grants program. The first is unrestricted operating support. Unrestricted operating grants are trusting. They give funds to an organization to use at their discretion to cover costs associated with their work in any way they see fit. These are very trusting grants, and for that reason, we focus our attention on unrestricted operating support for the most effective nonprofits. And when we get into the application process, you will note the higher level of criteria that organizations must meet in order to be competitive for operating support. We do want to note that we do not accept operating support grants for less than $5,000. So only organizations applying for $5,000 or more, up to one of the limits that was described earlier, can apply for unrestricted operating support. We do continue to fund project grants. Again, we are focusing on strategy, on alignment, both with the foundation's vision areas and why now is a moment in time where the foundation's investment could make a difference in either your project through a project grant or in your organization's work through an operating grant. And we'll talk in a minute a little further about what these two different types of funding mean. We also, from time to time, offer multi-year grants and invite organizations to apply for up to 3 years of consecutive funding. It should be noted, however, that it is a rare exception that we are able to make multi-year awards. This is partially due to IRS regulations that require a foundation, when making a multi-year grant, to encumber the funds in the year in which the grant was made. So for instance, if an organization was to apply for 3 years of funding at $20,000 a year, and the foundation were to make that grant, the foundation would have to set aside $60,000 in our current grant-making budget to meet the needs of that multi-year grant over the next 3 years. So for that reason, our ability to make multi-year grants is extremely limited. And so we look very carefully at proposals that are focused on a multi-year request. Because of this, we ask that any organization that desires to submit a multi-year project or operating grant contact the foundation and have a conversation with a member of our staff before submitting your concept paper. As I just noted, operating support grants for highly effective nonprofits are a very trusting grant program, a very trusting way of grant making, and for that, the bar is quite high because, again, these are unrestricted funds that an organization can use at their leisure and at their disposal to support their broader work. So organizations must demonstrate the criteria that you see on the screen. There has to be submitted with your application a board-approved strategic or business plan. That strategic or business plan needs to be active and currently in use. It needs to be, on average, 3 to 5 years in duration, which most strategic or business plans are. We need to see a track record of success, an organization able to demonstrate not only that they have had an impact, but that they have the capacity to monitor the impact they're having in their work. We look very closely at the financial health of an organization when determining if they are able to be awarded an operating grant. So we will look at audited financial statements. We will ask questions about assets and liabilities, about the overall health of your organization's finances, your ability to sustain your work through diversified funding and alternative financing measures. We also look at organizations that are committed to self-reflection and ongoing practice improvement through organizational self-assessment. There are evidence-based tools available readily for the nonprofit sector. Some of them focus self-assessment on the organization as a whole. Some of them focus on the self-assessment of staff, and some focus on self-assessment of the board of directors. This year, as we have in past years, the Foundation is requiring that applicants who are submitting a proposal for operating support can demonstrate that either they have already done and routinely do some form of organizational self-assessment with a description of what that self-assessment is, or state clearly in their application that they are committed to conducting that self-assessment as a part of their work in their grant year should they receive an award from us. But it is important to highlight that while this year it is an option as to whether you've done it now or would propose to do it during your grant with the Foundation, beginning in 2013, we will not accept operating proposals from organizations that have not already conducted some form of organizational self-assessment. So if you choose not to apply to us in 2012 but are considering a 2013 proposal, bear in mind that you will need to demonstrate that a self-assessment has been done. And we'll talk at the end of this webinar about some places and resources that you can go to learn more about effective self-assessment and resources and self-assessment tools you could look at and consider using. The last piece, which is a new requirement in 2012, is board contribution to the organization. In the past, we've talked about board contribution in broad terms: in-kind donations, volunteer time outside of the regular scheduled board meeting. While we still will be asking organizations to share with us those elements that reflect board strength, we are also requiring in 2012 that organizations clearly state that their board of directors contributes financially to the health of the organization at a rate of 100%, meaning that every board member has made some form of contribution financially. We appreciate that many organizations, particularly those that work with vulnerable populations, often have board members that do not have scalable resources that would warrant or make it easy for a financial contribution to be given. At the same token, however, we know that the gold standard in board strength is financial contribution as one of the many elements that go into assessing the strength of a board. So we do remain flexible in terms of what that giving actually means. Maybe you've got a board member that only gives $1. Maybe they give 10, maybe they can give more. What is important to the Foundation is that you are able to clearly demonstrate that they give something of financial capacity to your organization to support your work. Let's talk about project support. Many people, obviously, many organizations look to an operating grant as the ideal, but after reviewing or thinking through the criteria, sometimes think they're not quite ready. In addition, there are still needs in the community and projects that can produce results both in the community and to better an organization. So we still welcome project proposals, and for us, we define those as focused set of activities during a stated period of time with clearly stated deliverables. Our project grants are always competitive, as our operating grants are. But here we have a list of some of the things that we think are particularly compelling and competitive in considering a project support. Innovation, new ways of doing business, as I've described, that's a priority for us. Very often, those would entail project requests. Capacity work that helps further your mission, either some internal structural changes, maybe consultancy for strategic planning, and things of that nature. Or perhaps it is programmatic revision or piloting an initiative that would further your work. The one thing we usually do not fund in projects is ongoing funding for an ongoing project. But new projects or projects that are furthering your mission and adding to your work certainly can be competitive in these times. As with our operating support grants, we ask the same question with our project grants relative to strategic timing for foundation resources. So you will be asked to define and justify why now is a strategic moment for the foundation to invest in your work, and what results would happen because of the foundation's investment that may not happen in other scenarios. And with any project, we look to your ability to articulate clear evidence of impact and a description and a sense that you have the capacity and understanding of how you can arrive at tracking that impact and telling that story when the project is concluded. We very much value transparency, and with that in mind, wish to share with organizations what our review criteria is in general terms when we are reviewing concept papers and applications. You will see on your screen these very criteria. So as you are completing your concept papers, if you are invited to submit full applications for a large proposal, you want to check yourself against these criteria and think about whether or not you've been able to, in a clear fashion, address the issues you see listed here. So where do you start? If you are an organization having reviewed this criteria, reviewed this webinar, visited again the information on our website, and decided that now is a time to begin to apply or to consider working with the foundation if you're new to us, there are a few things you can do to begin. The first is to create a profile within our online grant system. This profile is basic information about your organization. Basic background information, your mission statement, a board list, contact information, details that, if filled out, will make it easier for you to complete applications either now or in the future. In addition, the Foundation has an express goal in its new strategic plan to find new ways to share good work and good organizations in the community with our donors who may be interested in similar work or in similar communities. And so your profile, whether or not you apply through our community grants program, becomes a powerful tool for us to have a deeper knowledge of your work in the community so that when a donor comes forward or opportunity strikes, we have at our fingertips basic information to share about your work. So again, even if you choose not to apply this round, we encourage you to go into the profile and complete it. Second, once your profile is complete, if you choose to apply, we invite you at this time to begin the submission of a concept paper. You see here on the screen reflected back the process. Less than $5,000, you will hear from us in 4 weeks. The concept paper will provide us all of the information we would need to determine a full award. For larger grants, once your concept paper is submitted, and again they are due August 31st, you will wait to hear if you've been invited to complete a full application. A reminder that an invitation to apply does not guarantee funding, and also a reminder that you'll be notified by mid-September whether or not your concept paper has been approved. And if it has been, you will have 3 weeks to turn around an application. And you see here we have set a tentative deadline of that due date to October 5th. So we would encourage organizations that submit larger concept papers to ensure that they've blocked off in their calendars time in late September to complete an application. We also want to talk about what's next for us and highlight in 2013 that we plan to continue grant making at regular intervals. As I said at the beginning, we paused competitive grant making in early 2012 in order to conduct strategic planning. But now that that is completed and our strategic plan is in the implementation phase, we are back to providing routine access to opportunities to seek funding from us. Again, I highlight that we will continue inviting proposals that are $5,000 or less on a rolling deadline. So after August 1st, you are welcome to submit such a proposal at any time. And that will not stop as we transition from 2012 to 2013. So we will invite those proposals on December 31st, January 1st, and so on and so on. Relative to large grants, we do have a deadline this year. We do expect to function using a deadline system next year, and we do anticipate having another opportunity to apply for a larger community grant early in 2013. It has been our habit over the last few years to post deadlines for the new upcoming year in late January or early February, and we would expect to do the same here. Again, that while we are not in a position right now to provide you a specific deadline for 2013, rest assured that if you choose not to submit a larger concept paper at this time, you will have an opportunity early in the new year to approach us at a time that might be best for you. So what should you do if you have questions? There are several things that we've put into place to try and make sure that nonprofits considering and working on applications with us can get their questions answered as quickly as possible. First, I would encourage you once again to visit our website and review the criteria. While we've highlighted key points today, there are other elements of our criteria that you would be wise to review before beginning to think to complete a concept paper or before deciding whether or not to apply. Relative to our online grant system, there will be a YouTube video posted shortly on the Foundation's YouTube channel that will serve as a tutorial on how to utilize our online grant system. That said, I will note that the system has been live since the beginning of July, and at this point, many organizations have already gone in, built profiles, and begun working with the concept paper. So far, their experience has been positive, and people's response has been finding that the system is relatively intuitive. So all that said, while there will be a video available to help guide people through that process, we would encourage people and invite you to enter into the system now and see whether or not viewing such a video would be helpful to you. Next, the Foundation is updating and launching a frequently asked questions section of our website. You see our website link on the screen. You will find the FAQ in the grant program section underneath community grants. And again, we anticipate not just updating it from previous years, but updating it on an ongoing basis between now and the August 31st deadline and into the future as we field your questions and learn more about ways that we can clarify our requirements and our process. So we would encourage you to visit it once and visit it often. If you did not receive our e-newsletter, which we would encourage you to register for that. We very often use our electronic news platform to share tips and updates during open grant periods and to announce the launch of other special grant programs we run that you may find yourself interested in. So again, if you have not registered for it and if you do not receive emails directly from us, I would encourage you to send an email here and get on our mailing list. Lastly, if you have questions, we invite you to contact a member of our staff. We have 2 lead people right now available to answer technical questions or programmatic questions. And if you visit our website, you will see their names and direct extensions and email addresses. And again, we have a person focused on technical questions about the grant portal. My password doesn't work, I can't get this box to function, the save button is acting weird. And then we have an additional person who can be contacted to discuss content-related questions you may have about an application or about whether or not your particular concept is likely to be competitive. Certainly, if there are further questions, that individual will send you forward to a member of our program officer team. But we do encourage you to utilize any of these tools at your disposal to reach out and get your questions answered. I'd like to take this time to thank you very much for attending our webinar. I would like to just highlight for you, in addition to our website, that we would encourage folks to visit the Center for Nonprofits, the New Hampshire Center for Nonprofits, a resource place that we have and many other funders have invested in. The center's website includes tips and tools on effective nonprofit practice, trainings on nonprofit effectiveness and grant writing, and in addition, as a new member benefit, their Nonprofit Next portal, which will provide access to templates for board governance, a self-assessment at the board, staff, and organizational level, and other tools that organizational leaders will find cost-effective, free, and easy to use. And we strongly encourage foundation grantees to become members of the Center for Nonprofits. So again, my thanks to you. My thanks to you for your work in the community on behalf of our staff, our donors, and our partners. We look forward to working with you now and in the future to improve the lives of the citizens of New Hampshire. Thank you very much.